Hi there, beautiful beings. How are you feeling today? How are you feeling after the previous video? Are you feeling a little bit lighter? Are you learning to embrace your beautiful imperfections, your gorgeous flaws that make you, you? So, my beautiful beings, in this gorgeous video, we wanted to expand on that. Now, what is stopping you from loving you in this moment? This is what your spirit guides are asking you today. This is what they want to bring forward. What is stopping you? Why can't you love all of you in this moment? Now, what was coming up as this question was being brought forward by my spirit guides for you today is that when we are little, we're never taught to embrace ourselves as we are. You know, especially if we have extra quirks like I did when I was little, but we're never taught to embrace who we are when we're little, to look at our strengths. You know, what talents do we have? Well, let's explore those. You know, when you're little, all the beings around you, all they ever do is compare. They compare you to your siblings, they compare you to your cousins, they compare you to others, especially once you start school, you know, the other kids in the school, what they're doing, what they're not doing. And why aren't you like them? We're also taught to be the good girl, to be the strong boy. And to be the good girl requires you to do this, that, and that. There's all these rules, all these conditions of how to be the good girl. And so many times to be the good girl, we really need to adjust who we are. And to be the strong boy, you're not allowed to cry. Crying is weak. There are so many rules and conditions for boys of what it is to be accepted. So, my beautiful beings, from so little, we are already taught to look at ourselves as there's something wrong with us. We're not right the way we are, just as we are. There's always something that we need to change, something we need to alter, something we need to step into in order for the grown-ups around us to approve. This is what we're taught as little ones. And this is part of the process, my beautiful beings. This is part of the human condition. This is what we come for. To know what it is to not be loved just as we are. We already came from that. This is what we come from. Love. This beautiful energy that loves us no matter what. We are perfect just as we are. And then we come here to know, well, what does it feel like to not be accepted? What does it feel like to not be loved? What does it feel like to have to be twisting and turning and contorting yourself constantly to fit in with the expectations of these beings around us? One of the beautiful things that came up today on Facebook was that we have learned all these beliefs, all these behaviors. It's all learned from your childhood. And returning to your natural state is unlearning all of that. If you could learn it, if you could learn to not love yourself, which is one of the hardest things, how can you not love yourself? It's one of the hardest things to do. And for some of us, for so much of my adult life, there was a loathing that I was so different, that I didn't fit in anywhere. What was wrong with me? Why can't I be happy? Why can't I fit in? You know, here in Australia, it's a cultural thing to drink alcohol and get absolutely blotto at every party, at every gathering. I didn't grow up with that in my home. You know, my dad would have a scotch, you know, whiskey, one glass at the end of the day to help him relax after a day of, you know, bricklaying because he'd worked so hard. He just wanted something to relax his system. So he'd have that. As soon as he walked in the door, had a shower, he'd have his scotch. And then we'd have dinner and he'd have a glass of red wine. And that was it for him, you know. That was it. And some days he didn't even have his scotch. Some days he didn't even have his red wine. Depends on how he was feeling. But my mum couldn't drink anything, you know. She would get really sick quite easily from drinking alcohol. So I didn't really grow up with it being a cultural thing in my home. But, you know, later as I became an adult and I'd go out with workmates or whatever, this was the trend, what everyone was doing, all getting drunk. And I'd be like, what is wrong with me? I just don't see the point for me. I just didn't. And I would be very much like my mum, you know, that I would have a couple of drinks and I would get very, very sick. You know, I just didn't feel well. And I'd be throwing up. And I'm like, what's the point of this? Like, for me, it was no fun. It's like, you know, I have 2 or 3 drinks and I'm already throwing up, or I get this really wicked headache, you know, bordering on migraine. And I'm like, what is the point? It's obviously not for me. But, you know, I remember, you know, and to this day, my husband still throws it in my face that we would be going to parties, or, you know, he'd take me to any party really where they'd all be drinking and I'd be outside. One, because the music was too loud and I couldn't stand it. Like I said before, I don't do really well with loud noise, and especially if it's constant bombardment of music, really, really loud. I did the disco years when I was younger, you know, from about 16 to about 19, I'm trying to think, 16 to 18. And I would get home and my ears would still be thumping, thumping, thumping. And for the whole of the next day, I would have this high-pitched sound in my ears. And I'd be like, oh, this is so annoying, you know, so annoying. But, yeah, he used to get upset that, you know, he would be having fun. They'd all be drinking inside. They'd all be having a good time. And I would be outside. If there was a garden, especially, I'd be outside in the garden sitting there just waiting for it all to be over and I could go home, you know. I didn't find any of it fun, you know. Not the loud noise, the loud music, and then everybody would be yelling at each other because they'd be trying to talk over the loud music that was playing. And then, you know, for a lot of them, as they got drunk, they would just keep repeating the same thing over and over. You know, I'd walk in, I just remember thinking, have I lost my mind or something? You know, it's like I walked into the da-da-da-da-da-da-da, you know, the Twilight Zone. And that, like, you know, they'd ask me a question and then half an hour later I'd go off to the bathroom or whatever, come back, they'd ask me the same question again. And I'd be like, hang on, didn't we just have this conversation like half an hour ago, you know, with these people? And I'd be like, oh my God. So I'd go and sit outside or do something else because I wasn't having fun and I didn't see the point, you know. So I went through that as an adult, like, I just didn't like adulting. I didn't like being around adults because for me, it didn't feel fun. And when I started teaching piano and I could be working with kids constantly, with children, I just felt like I was in my zone, you know. They spoke my language. I could be honest with them. They could be honest with me. I didn't have to hide anything. I just loved being around them. I loved their honesty, you know. And I didn't have to do anything that was uncomfortable for me. I didn't have to drink to be around children, you know. I didn't have to listen to loud noise to be around children. It was just to work with them, you know. And I was doing something that I loved, which was piano. You know, I'd been doing it since I was 10 and I just loved it. So to be able to share that and get paid for it, you know, wow, bonus, amazing. And I still do it to this day. You know, I just really love that moment when a child, there's so much that we gain from it. You know, you start off a piece, and I've had so many kids. It's funny that word doesn't come up as often now, that I can't do it. You know, when I first started, all the kids would be like, oh, I can't do it. And eventually I got to a point where I was saying to them, you know what, we're not allowed to use that word anymore. If you come into this lesson, the word can't doesn't exist. And I don't want to doesn't exist. I just, you know, let's just erase them. You know, and so because that used to drive me nuts. And so for me, it was so what's the word? Fulfilling, I guess, that moment when a student would start a piece and look at it like, oh my, this is just daunting. And they would be thinking, I'm sure to themselves, I can't do this. And we would break it down, into the bits where, okay, let's learn this new skill. And that's what I would say to them. This is a new skill. You haven't learnt this yet, right? Your fingers haven't done this yet. They don't know what to do. This is how I explain it to them. And so, let's teach them how to do it. And so we break it down to the very, very minimum of, what they can do. And then we build on that. We build the skills until eventually they're doing it. And then they're like, oh, and to see their confidence, of, I could do that. And sometimes I would remind them when they start another piece and they'd be like, this is so hard. Sometimes that comes up and I'd be like, remember that piece? Remember when you used to say it's impossible, there's no way, and now you're playing it? Well, this is the same as just the next level, right? So this is life. It's just the next level. That's all it is. You just don't have the skills for it yet. But let's get back to us and the topic of this beautiful video that your spirit guides want to bring through. We have this habit that we are taught from quite little, that happiness is somewhere in the future, that peace is somewhere in the future, that abundance is somewhere in the future. And it's a habit that we learn. And the issue with this habit is that you are placing it in the future. You're saying that happiness is over there. It's not here right now. It's over there. So you keep telling the universe, happiness is over there. When this particular thing happens, then I'll be happy. But I need this first for happiness to happen. Same with peace. I need that to happen for me to be at peace. And I need that to happen for me to be love. For me to know that I am love. To know that I am loved. But we are telling the universe it's not here right now. These things are over there. Over there. 5 years away, 10 years away, 20 years away. Who knows what it is that you're waiting for those things to happen. And what I've observed in my years of being on this planet, because they laugh at home, they always say that, when I start to glitch and I start to say funny things and my mouth's not working and words aren't coming out, at home they always laugh, my husband and my daughter, that, oh no, they've sent the replacement and they forgot to put the download in. The aliens, when they send me back in, and they sent the upgraded version, but they forgot to download the old version that knows how to do all the stuff. So we always laugh about that at home. But the truth is, what I've observed is that we wait for these things to happen. Oh, now I can be happy. And what I've observed is, especially watching my parents, is that when those things have come, they've happened, they're now here, guess what? They're still not happy. One example was the beautiful house that my dad built for my mum. She wanted this huge kitchen. They wanted extra rooms, then extra bathrooms, because we only had the one bathroom between the four of us. All these things. And my dad spent so many weekends building their dream home. And once that dream home would be complete, they would be happy. They would be complete, at peace. And everything would all align for them. And by the time that all happened, the house was finished. They weren't happy because they were ignoring a very important truth. And that was that they missed their home. They missed their country. They missed where they came from. They wanted to go back home. What felt like home to them, because to them Australia was not home. My mum had all of her family back in South America, and my dad was one of 9 brothers, and there were only 4 of them here in Australia. 4. 3. Oh, no, 4, including my dad. There were 4 of them here. So he still had 5 overseas in South America. So to them, this was not home because all of their family, their siblings were still in South America. It didn't feel like home for them. And I knew what that felt like because when I had to move back to South America, my parents decided to go back when I was 15. It didn't feel like home there. Everything was so different to Australia. If it was similar, I might have adapted that, oh, okay, I get it, I get it. But it's so, so different. It was, for me, it was such a culture shock. It took such a long time to adapt. And what helped me through was that the people there are just so loving, so warm, and they will give you what they have, even if they have nothing. They will give you the shirt off their back if you need it. So that's what got me through, my relatives, my aunts, my uncles, my cousins. More, I think, I had a strong connection with my aunts and my uncles on my mum's side, my mum's sisters. For some reason, I don't know why, I just had a very strong connection with them. And that got me through, And then I had a boyfriend and I fell in love, and that was a whole other kettle of fish. Because there's always that, I was in love, and there's always that belief, that we're waiting our whole lives for this being to save us. That's a lot of pressure to put on this person. That they're going to make us feel loved. Finally, I'm going to feel loved. My knight in shining armor has come. He's in my life now. And the truth of it was that I didn't feel loved. I know he loved me. It's not fair to say that, and I loved him. I adored him, same as I adore my husband. But I didn't feel loved. And what was coming up more than anything with that partner was that I wasn't good enough for him. I wasn't good enough. I wasn't pretty enough. I wasn't smart enough. I wasn't anything enough. Just wasn't enough. Is all that was coming up. So, my beautiful beings, we do the same with ourselves. We can love ourselves when we are, what? When we're smart enough, when we have that degree on the wall and we've proven to ourselves that we are smart enough, then we can love ourselves. When we are good enough in some way, what? Kind enough, gentle enough, patient enough, compassionate enough. What is it that you're waiting for to be what? For you to be able to love yourself. Because what will happen is that you will get to that, say it's the smart enough, and say you're waiting for that degree to put up on the wall. And now I'm an engineer, or whatever the smartest degree is. I'm a rocket scientist. I have that degree now on the wall. Can I love myself now? I'm smart enough. That habit that keeps it in the future, when you get to that, now I'm smart enough, I've proven to myself I have that degree, it will find something else. Oh, but I'm not strong enough. I'm not brave enough. It will find something else for you to go on that pursuit. Your spirit guides want you to know that you are enough in this moment. Doesn't matter what you've been through. Doesn't matter what you've done, what you've said. You are enough in this moment, just as you are. Just as you are, my beautiful beings. This is the message for you today. So we invite you to sit down with yourself today. What is it about yourself today that you cannot love? We're going to talk more on this in the next video, because for some reason our spirit guides want to bring this up in these videos. We love you guys. Remember to click like and subscribe so you don't miss any of the messages. And we'll see you in the next video, okay? Bye for now.